This is one of the
Absolutely.
strangest interviews in the history of human beings, and I applaud it.
Welcome back. I'm Shane McClelland.
I'm Lori Gum.
And I'm Terry Carnation.
And these are the Q Files. Today, we have a very special show with a very special guest. Legendary AM radio host, provocateur, world traveler, bon vivant, raconteur, owner of a great set of gams and a glorious VHS rental store. Philosopher and paramour of the paranormal, a god incarnate, and host of Dark Air, Terry Carnation.
That was the single best introduction I have ever written for myself.
Perfect. We're
he
huge.
read it. He read it so well, didn't he?
He read it so well. No, you elucidated on the bio that I gave Shane, and he did it magnificently. And I appreciate. Well, we live in an age that lacks descriptors, and I love being described.
Well, you're nearly indescribable. We've been huge fans of your career for many years. Been following you like
Thank
benevolent stalkers. And you know, you're a worldwide household name with billions of fans. But just in case one of our listeners has been living under a rock or lost to the fairy realm, could you introduce yourself to folks and let them know what they can expect in your new show?
Certainly, Shane. Certainly, Lori. Longtime listener, big fan of the Q Files. Excellent to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me. We share much in common, a very similar worldview. And I will just say that Terry Carnation, I, myself, being Terry Carnation, am the host of Dark Air, a paranormal call-in radio show that has been on the air for at least 30 years, although the past 3 years I've taken off for personal reasons, for mental health reasons. Maybe more on that later, but not too much more on that. It's very painful. But that being said, my show, like yours, is about so much more. It's about life. It's about connection. It's about bringing people together. It's about having a shared mystery.
Oh, absolutely. You really act with kind of like a therapist on your show, helping people through relationships and trauma. It's truly remarkable. And you know, I mean, kind of just getting you back on the air.
Do you know what else is truly remarkable, Shane?
What is that?
Your hair is magnificent.
Isn't it? It's the best part of the show, I swear.
I have only listened to the show previously and had never seen Shane's bouffant. It is luscious. It defies gravity.
It does defy gravity.
It is an unidentified flying object attached to your head. And that's myself included, who has, well, if I may say so myself, magnificent hair.
You do. You have some very fine, luscious locks.
Yeah, we were kind of hoping maybe as a souvenir from the show, you might mail us just a little clipping of a lock of your hair, just so we could have it.
Lori, I'll take that as a sincere request, and I would love to honor it. And I will just say, however, if that lock of hair is going to be treasured, personally, because I see them popping up on eBay all the time and selling for $3,000-$4,000.
Yes, it would be a treasure, and at very least, we would hang on it until the value gets much, much higher.
Oh, touche.
Anyway, since we have you here, the Godfather of Strange, we thought we might ask you a few questions, get your thoughts on some topics. So it's generally accepted that birds, much like the hosts of The View, are robots. They aren't real. And, are you aware of any other robots passing themselves off as living creatures? Perhaps Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan. Interesting. He has been programmed for maximum podcast success. Programmed to be a maximum broham.
Mm-hmm.
And set loose upon society. I think that Joe Rogan as a robot fits the description perfectly. I was going to say Kim Jong-un.
Oh, yes.
Pat Sajak.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Charlize Theron.
Most definitely. No,
I mean, you have an eye for catching them. It's like your robot Dar.
It's robot Dar. It's exactly what it is. Yes, there's little telltale signs you watch. There's little, in the Matrix when the cat runs by the doorway twice, there's little glitches in the Matrix with some of these people. And I need to watch Rogan more carefully for that. Shane, what is your telltale sign that Rogan may in fact be an android?
It's the it's the eyes and his ability to consume seriously vast amounts of the marijuana.
No, and I think the particularly programmed for success without any, outside objective reason why it's a success, just proves that it's a computer program.
Perhaps several million of those 100 million followers of his have also been programmed, so to speak.
Very possible.
Anyhow, what's cooking on the Q files? What's fresh?
Well, what's fresh is we've really been starting to do. We interviewed an artist this week, and one of the things he paints is cryptids. So we wanted to ask you about cryptids. We see a lot of seasonal concern that folkloric creatures like Santa and the Easter Bunny may actually be cryptids. What are your thoughts on that and others like Belsnickel?
Interesting. Belsnickel. Well, cryptids should be disencrypted.
Indeed.
I don't know what to say. There's nothing cryptic about cryptids. They're absolutely real. I mean, from the Loch Ness Monster to the Chupacabra, the list goes on and on. Of course, there are species as yet unidentified who do not want to be identified. Yep. It wouldn't be Mother Nature if it wasn't this way. Skeptics can just kiss my enormous white ass.
We feel we have that sentiment. As a matter of fact, we were going to use that as a logo for our show at the very beginning. So we might have to rethink that.
Any thoughts on the skunk ape?
Shane, that is totally, you're all about cryptids. Give us your opinion of that.
No, I mean, the skunk ape seems like kind of, implausible. What are skunks and apes doing mating,
Good point. But stranger things have happened.
True.
I've seen Stranger on Hollywood Boulevard.
Valid. Very valid.
And probably out there somewhere on some strange channel, Pornhub or something like that, Skunk Hub, you'll see a skunk and an ape in fornication.
I'm actually sure that's probably on Pornhub too. Yeah. So I guess on the topic of cryptids, we've been diligently searching for some of the smaller ones. Have you ever come across or heard stories that you could share about like elves or anything?
Oh, well, I don't like to discuss elves.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, I had some personal interaction with elves that has left me scarred, a little bit traumatized. It's like if you've been mugged in Times Square, you don't want to walk through Times Square. You skirt it, and I don't want to go into it, but elves are devilish, nasty little creatures, and they're very handsy. But their hands are largely fingers. Their fingers are so very long. They're fingery. I was fingered by an elf.
That's alarming.
Oh,
there, I said it.
I'm sorry to hear you
gone
through that.
And it would really call for the necessity of elf recovery groups that, just I'm sure you're not the only one that's experienced this. So, you could really be a role model and a poster child for, elf abuse recovery.
That is an excellent point. And maybe that's something I need to seek. There's obviously more healing yet to be done.
For sure.
Absolutely.
This is one of the strangest interviews in the history of human beings, and I applaud it.
Well, I sincerely appreciate it. We sincerely appreciate that coming from you, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you did this before you are the height to which we aspire. You really are, and it's beyond an honor to have you here with us and to say that. I mean, that's probably, Shane, I don't know, that might have been the biggest compliment we've ever gotten.
I think it probably very likely is.
Let me put this in context. This will shift your perspective. I had an intern when I first began, little Artie Bell. Artie, get me some coffee. Oh, no coffee tonight, Artie. Sanka. I don't know if that shifts things around for you, puts a timetable in perspective.
It sure does, makes things a little clearer. Yeah, we're getting more of the whole story. That's exactly right. So, tell us, and our listeners, I know our listeners are going to want to know this. What was like your first paranormal experience that led you down this trail to investigating the high strange and talking about the high strange?
The high strange.
That's our broad term for everything, an expanded notion of paranormal.
I love that phrase. I'm savoring it like a fine wine. The high strange. Well, ever since I was young, the high strange has been happening to me, to young Terrence. My mother, when I was an infant, saw me floating above my crib.
Oh.
Wow.
Yes. It might have been squirrels, but there you have it. I remember as a child specifically making myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, setting it on the counter, turning around, turning back, and yes, the sandwich was gone.
Fascinating.
Now, could it be that I forgot and that I accidentally ate it? Or
I don't know.
Or that my uncle Douglas snuck in and ate it when I wasn't looking? It's possible. It's possible. But high strange nonetheless. The list goes on.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially the peanut butter sandwich. That's not the first time we've heard of things like that happening with a peanut butter sandwich. I think it's it's really an area of paranormal. The peanut, butter sandwich snatchings. I think it's a really under-investigated part of the paranormal world.
And perhaps sandwiches in general. I don't know if that also applies to like burritos or chimichangas.
It's a good point.
Great point. Yeah, it could be. That brings us to the thought. It could be, a very global phenomenon. So we have peanut butter sandwiches in the United States, but yeah, they may be,
listeners out there, from whatever culture you may be, let's talk about food snatchings. Please send your comments into the Q Files. You could CC me, Terry Carnation. I can be reached at my website, terrycarnation.com. And we'd love to hear about food snatching wherever you may be. If you're in India, perhaps it's samosas. If it's Argentina, it could be empanadas. If it's Mongolia, it could be Mongolian beef.
That's exactly right. Right.
We'd love to hear from you.
And there's always a well-known, a lot of Christmas desserts in particular have been known to get snatched. So there's even a seasonal component to these snatchings. So yeah, I think we're onto something. And I think the three of us here are really the first, people that have had the courage to talk about food snatchings.
Indeed.
Terry, do you have any possible examples from your show, any stories that you can share, or kind of maybe even highlights of what folks might be getting into?
I do. Is it possible for me to share a call from the Terry Carnation show?
Yeah, no, that'd be perfect.
Let me see. I've got, yes, I've got a call from a lonely alien, a call from a woman whose boyfriend is a werewolf. I've got a call from a gentleman who believes that the horn section of Chicago were a secret squad of hitmen. I've got a call from...
Terry, hang on. I'll tell you what. We've heard that. We've heard that about Chicago. We have heard that ourselves.
Really? Well, we'd like to hear the call and see if it corroborates your theory?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that'd be perfect.
Okay, here we are. All right, let's listen to this call. This is a real live call that came into the Dark Air with Terry Carnation not long ago, and it's a fascinating story. Next up, we've got Joe Ballard.
Oh, thank you, Terry. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for taking my call. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about something. Have you heard that podcast about the Scorpions possibly being CIA agents? Have you heard that podcast, Terry?
Podcast? No, I'm not 23, okay? I don't listen to podcasts.
Well, if I may, they're fantastic. You can get a lot of information. This Scorpions one is a good example of that. I had no idea that these guys were going around the world being agents for the United States of America to try to get countries.
Wait, are you speaking about actual scorpions?
No, I'm talking about the band Scorpions.
Okay. What's your question, or what's your point, Mr. Ballard?
The fact that you haven't heard about this concerns me because there is... From what I understand, a lot of musicians were doing this, certainly back in the 60s and the 70s, and one in particular that I'm aware of is that band Chicago. There's 7 guys in that band, so you know that a bunch of them are up to no good when the other guys are up on stage and the horn section goes off stage for a little while. I think they're back there doing some business, and I think it's time that somebody talks about it. You don't seem to be wanting to talk about these rock and roll bands that are trying to be in cahoots with the government.
Wait, you're saying that the horn section from the band Chicago, when they were not playing on stage, were backstage in cahoots with the government doing something nefarious?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Do you remember in the 80s when Chicago went into that kind of soft rock era where they weren't using the horns anymore?
That's right.
Well, the horns they were a little restless. They had a lot of time on their hands while they're doing those You're the Inspiration and Hard to Say I'm Sorry. Well, the band's out there doing those songs. The horns got nothing to do. So the trombone, and the trumpet, and the saxophone, they would go off stage, and they would be doing some wheeling and dealing to try to get Russian spies into the country.
Well, could they be in the green room eating saltines, or?
Well, I think if they're in the green room, all they're doing is loading up their guns, because I think they're going to go out and murder. I think they're assassins. I think they're trained assassins. You ever see the precision of a horn player? That's precise. You got to get the precision of that trombone going in and out. That's precision. That guy can be up on some sort of a grassy knoll taking somebody out from 200-300 yards.
Do you believe that there are other horn sections that were also trained assassins?
Absolutely. Herb Alpert, he started A&M Records, and I'll be goddamned if he couldn't hit the side of a barn with a bullet. And there's no question James Brown had his brass section was out there. They're all assassins, Terry, and you're blind to it. Let me ask you something, Terry. You remember 9/11?
Yes, I do. I remember it very well.
Right. Never forget, right? Well, everybody likes to blame those planes. Well, I got news for you. It was actually a marching band brass line. No doubt about it. Left over from the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ballard. We've seen the video of airplanes flying into the World Trade Centers.
Right, to distract it from the brass line. The airplane's up high. Everybody's looking up at the sky at the airplane, hitting the building. Down low, you got a brass line going right into the building. That knocks that thing down. And this is something that nobody likes to talk about. The night before in Jersey City, you're never going to guess who was playing there. Tower of Power. You've never heard horns like the Tower of Power going down a New York street right into a building. That's power. Into a tower.
Well, this is fascinating. Joe Ballard, thank you so much for your call. And
Earth, Wind, and Ready, Aim, Fire. How's that grab you, Carnation?
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Thank you. With that, we'll go to a commercial break.
Joe Ballard, peace out.
Do you think it was a musician who killed Kennedy?
Shane, much like yourself, I try and stay open to all possibilities. I'm not a skeptic. I am open-minded. I do not know. The jury is out. The JFK assassination, well, you and I, we could sit here for several months discussing the
Right.
various possibilities. Could it have been a musician? This is a new wrinkle that Joe Ballard has brought to us, a new possibility. We would have to check what bands were on tour in 1963 in Dallas at that time. And that's not a rabbit hole that I have scampered down previously.
Understandable.
No, but you're right. The facts are there. We can check. And, going back to Chicago, the version I heard, and this is from a pretty reliable source, is that it was Peter Cetera that was actually an alien working with the Men in Black, is what I heard about Chicago. And especially it's talking about that soft rock sort of thing happening. That was really to sort of, just numb us and, to prepare us for, this combination of alien and government sort of military rule. So, again, the jury's out on that too. We just have to be open-minded and gather the facts and present them to our listeners the best we can.
That's all we do. We just discuss the facts. We just lay them out on the table. And it's up to them to make up their own minds.
I'm impressed with the respect you give your listeners. I'm impressed with your open mind, because there are not a lot of venues where someone like this gentleman can call and have his voice be heard.
That's right. And we're all about voices being heard, even in the big strange. What did you call it? The grand strange, the big weird.
The high. Oh, I like big weird, but it is the high strange.
The high strange. How could I forget it? I repeated it to myself like 17 times. The high strange, of course. Oh, goodness. Well, listen, wow. You two, you're delightful, and this has been such an honor. Thank you very much for taking an interest in Dark Air and in me, Terry Carnation, its host. And I hope you will be downloading my new radio show.
Absolutely.
Some people have called it a podcast. I don't know what that is. A podcast is like when you record, like in the 70s, Laurie, you remember, we would record AM radio onto a cassette deck and then listen back to it later on. That's kind of what a podcast is, essentially.
Yep. So how can our listeners find Dark Air?
Wherever fine podcasts are sold or presented, be it Apple, be it Spotify, they can go there and hit follow or subscribe or whatever button they wish to. And week by week, starting on April 1st, they will be ushered forth into the world. They will be birthed.
We can't wait. We can't wait.
What an honor. Thank you for having me on the Q Files. And much love to you and to your wonderful listeners. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. This show was created and produced by me, Shane McClelland, and Laurie Gumm. Until next time, friends.
Be weird, stay curious.
These are the Q Files. And hey, don't forget to check out Terry Carnation's new show, Dark Air, available April 1st, wherever fine podcasts are sold.
And don't forget about that lock of hair, Terry.
That's right, Laurie. That's right. Send me your address.